My name is Hare Krishna Ghosh. I teach at Don Bosco School, Asinganj in Murshidabad district, Bengal. Susmita Madri is one of my students, and I noticed that she was absent in the class for a number of days. I decided to visit her house.
I was stunned when my class teacher made an unexpected visit to my house. My mother and grandmother did not know what to do. We knew the reason for his visit. My mother said she could not afford to send both my brother and me to school, so I was asked to stay back and help in the house.
I had to convince her parents about the value of education and promised we would support them to continue with their studies. Susmita is happy now.
This is not an isolated, heartwarming story from the deep interiors of West Bengal. Several students like Susmita are back in school due to the timely and transformative interventions of Don Bosco. The progress of education is an index of the general social and economic development of a country. The legislative provisions regarding the right to compulsory and free education, considering it a human right, was a big leap forward towards the universalization of education in India. However, a majority of the poorer parents are not yet aware of the right to education of their children. Knowledge is power. It is with the aim of empowering the weak through education that the solutions of Don Bosco run schools and organize sponsorship programs for the underprivileged in the city of Calcutta and in rural Bengal. Poverty is a debilitating factor in any society, and the sprawling slums teeming with the illiterate are the disturbing face of urban poverty. Calcutta, the city of joy, is no exception. Slum dwellers account for about 1/3 of the city's population. Deprived of even the most basic amenities and living in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions, they survive on a meager income from the humblest of jobs. Concerned with the daily struggle to survive, the parents can but pay little or no attention to the education and the upbringing of their children. Largely left to themselves, the children fend for themselves, begging in various pockets of the city, rag picking, or being exploited in various ways by the unscrupulous. Engaging in the education of the children of the slum dwellers offers multiple challenges, like having to overcome the apathy of often illiterate parents, dealing with children who are generally slow learners, providing a conducive study space, as well as study materials. Don Bosco institutions in Lilua and Nithika cater largely to these disadvantaged children and take remedial classes and evening tuition, while at the same time providing study materials, uniforms, and meals. Don Bosco Asalem, for its part, focuses on the rescue and rehabilitation of the children, especially from the streets and especially from railway and bus stations.
They have just completed their 10th standard exams, and all of them are taking spoken English classes which would help them to do their higher studies.
With support from Don Bosco, many of these children prove themselves to be firmly determined to sculpt a new life for themselves and for their families. Besides their support for formal education, Don Bosco institutions are engaged in large-scale skill training. This initiative was born of the awareness that unskilled, unemployed, unemployable youth fall easy prey to frustration and are easily led on the path of delinquency and crime. Don Bosco technical schools have trained a significant number of youth in various trades and helped them to find a decent employment. Despite the booming cities and the ever-increasing urban population, the majority of the 1.3 billion people living in India are still found in her villages. Here too, the awareness is growing that education is the only means to eradicate poverty and make the nation move forward on the path of sustainable development. Don Bosco educational outreach programs are increasingly proving themselves to be effective in improving the quality of the education of the mostly first-generation students who have no other option than to attend the not-so-high-quality schools available to them in the villages.
Access to school and lack of facilities at home is a big problem the children face in this area. We board 80 boys and 60 girls, and they attend nearby government school.
While the quality of education in rural India in general leaves much to be desired, and that especially among socially disadvantaged sections of the population, the situation of the tribal regions is more lamentable. Taking account of the unhealthy working conditions of the weaker sections in the rural and tribal regions, and aware of the fact that illiterate parents work in the brick kilns, stone crushing units, tea gardens, etc., Don Bosco institutions have fanned out into rural and tribal areas. Challenges include the fact that students are first-generation schoolgoers, that hapless parents are generally apathetic towards the education of their children. Besides, the obvious disadvantages of a socio-economic nature, which have nevertheless to be overcome. Still, despite everything, there are evidences of an awakening, greater competence and self-assurance in the beneficiaries. A large number of people in Asimganj are employed in the unorganized brick kiln industry, working under the health-defying, dangerous conditions. Distressed with long hours of hard work, low pay, health issues, lack of proper housing, etc., the hapless parents have no time to worry about the education of their children. Mindful of their situation and that of the Santali tribal population, Don Bosco Asimganj board 500 children in 4 boardings, both for boys and girls.
Don Bosco Welfare Center Asingganj has a primary school and a high school with a total of nearly 1,200 children, boys and girls, and we have 4 hostels, 2 for girls and 2 for boys, a total strength of 700 boys and girls, and they all come from poor tribal families.
A similar boarding runs at Barapahari in the neighborhood of stone-crushing plants. Living in unhealthy, poorly lit, chaotic environments not only upsets the education of children, but also their health. As a result, the goal of education for all eludes these luckless children. The education sponsorship program of Don Bosco's Sonada targets the children of the tea garden workers. These children are challenged by the long distances to schools, their poor quality, lack of study materials, and an insufficient number of truly dedicated teachers. Improving the learning environments of these children are inexorable. Effective education of children from the backward, rural or tribal areas is possible by setting up boarding schools. Don Bosco runs 7 boarding schools, taking care of a total of 2,100 boys and 1,400 girls. Since all the children are from poor families, there are no fixed fees for school or hostel accommodation. The deserving students are taught free. Many of them receive free school uniforms, shoes, books, and personal products. Their medical care is also attended to. The boarding for the boys are run by the fathers, while the boarding for the girls are managed by the sisters. The total number of children attending the evening school total up to 2,000. These boardings distinguish themselves in being more than mere structures imparting academic training to unfortunate children. Their friendly and family atmosphere, with each one having to help out with the daily chores, including cooking and cleaning, provisions for training in soft and hard skills, recreational activities, and cultural exposures, make them more knowledgeable and more competent to face life with greater confidence. It is worth noting that the games, the music, the regular and varied recreational activities, and the occasional visits to places of historical and cultural interest provide them with a holistic formation and a better awareness of their own specific Indian and tribal identities. The socio-economic background of the majority of the students with whom Don Bosco is engaged makes it necessary that the Don Bosco fathers and the sisters have to provide even for the most basic requirements of the children under their care, like food, clothing, and medicine. Answering to these given needs, periodic health camps are organized where free medical checkups are done, medicines distributed, and instructions on hygiene given. One of the more effective preventive health measures being addressed is that of providing clean water, which go a long way in living cleaner and healthier. Several water tanks have already been built in different villages, and they have helped register a noticeable change. The effects of the educational efforts of Don Bosco have also begun to register on the illiterate parents of the children. In many, they have kindled the desire to learn. A visible sign of this is the groups of villagers who walk to Don Bosco's centers at sunset to attend specially prepared, adult-oriented tuition classes. They too want to empower themselves and feel that it is good to do so now than never. Providing quality education is indeed a declaration of war against ignorance, which results in poverty and exploitation. The solutions, in imitation of the heart of the Good Shepherd, which so characterized Don Bosco, their founder, is spanning out to even more remote areas of Bengal to search out and save those who otherwise will be lost in the wilderness of ignorance and poverty. The children whose future was grim now looks forward with hope and happiness on their faces. You can be proud for being the cause for the smile on their face.